One day, you wake up and realize something isn't right. You're breathing. You're moving. You're doing what you've always done. But something feels missing. You look at your life, and you say quietly to yourself, "Where did I go?" Not the job. Not the responsibilities. Not the expectations. You, the dreamer, the believer, the one who once felt alive. And if that's you today, I have good news. You can come back. You can rebuild. You can rediscover the person you were meant to be. But it begins with one decision, the decision to find yourself again. There's something remarkable about rediscovery, something powerful, about returning to the person you were always meant to be. Because life, as wonderful as it is, has a strange way of distracting us. When we're young, we don't think twice about dreaming big. We don't question our worth. We don't fear being ourselves. We simply live, curious, hopeful, unapologetically real. But somewhere along the journey, things begin to shift. We start listening more to the world and less to our inner voice. We trade authenticity for acceptance. We swap dreams for comfort. We learn to survive instead of learning to live. And one day, you look in the mirror, and the reflection staring back feels unfamiliar. And you wonder, when did I lose myself? But let me tell you something important. Losing yourself is not failure. It's a sign you've been growing, adapting, giving and surviving. But now it's time to do something different. Now it's time to find yourself again. Finding yourself again isn't about going back in time. It's not about reliving old chapters. It's about reconnecting with the part of you that never left. The part that simply got quiet. Because who you truly are is still there, waiting patiently, waiting for you to slow down, waiting for you to listen again, waiting for you to say, "I'm ready." Now, here's the truth. Not everyone reaches this point. Some people spend their whole lives ignoring the inner call. They fill their days with noise. They stay busy enough to never confront themselves. But those who stop, reflect, and choose to rediscover who they are, those are the ones who transform. Not by force, not by pressure, but by awareness. And awareness is a powerful thing. Awareness says, this version of me is not the final one. Awareness says, there's more inside me than I'm currently living. Awareness says, I may have lost my way, but I have not lost myself. So how do you begin? Not with a plan, not with perfection, not with knowing every answer. You begin with honesty. Sit with yourself, not as the world sees you, but as you truly are. Ask questions that matter. What do I truly want? What did I stop believing in? What dreams did I abandon because they felt too big? What version of myself have I been avoiding? And most importantly, who am I when nobody is watching? When you ask honest questions, you start uncovering honest answers. Answers that may surprise you. Answers that may challenge you. Answers that may wake something inside you that's been quiet for a long time. Finding yourself again requires courage. Not the kind that shouts loudly, but the kind that whispers, I will not stay lost. And here's what's interesting. When you begin remembering who you are, life begins to shift. Your standards rise. Your voice returns. Your confidence rebuilds. Your energy changes. You stop accepting what drains you. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop pretending everything is fine when your soul knows it's not. Because once you reconnect with your true self, you can never comfortably live as less again. Finding yourself again isn't a one-day decision. It's a process, a journey, a returning. But each step you take, each moment of clarity, each honest reflection, each courageous choice brings you closer to a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and real. And when you finally reach that place, you won't just feel alive. You'll feel you, the real you, the honest you, the powerful you. And that version of you can change everything. So let this be the beginning of remembering, reclaiming, and rebuilding the person you were meant to be. Because the greatest journey you'll ever take is the journey back to yourself. And you're not late. You're right on time. To find yourself again, you must first know what you stand for. Values are not words. They are not slogans. They are not what looks good on paper. Values are behaviors. Values are standards. They are the invisible compass that guides every choice, every action, every step you take. I remember a time in my life. I had climbed the ladder at work. I was respected. I had the paycheck. I had the titles. But something was missing. I would come home at night, sit quietly in my living room, and feel hollow. I was successful by the world's measure, but inside, I had lost touch with who I was. I realized that I had been living someone else's values, following rules that weren't mine, chasing goals that felt empty. I had ignored the small inner voice that had once guided me, and that's when I decided to stop. I decided to reflect, to ask myself the questions I had been avoiding. What matters most to me? What do I want to stand for? What kind of person do I want to become? It was uncomfortable. It was quiet. It was humbling. But it was the start of rediscovery. You see, many people never ask these questions. They move through life like leaves in the wind, blown by expectation, blown by circumstance, blown by the noise of the world. But when you pause, when you reflect, you begin to see patterns. I started noticing the moments that made me feel alive, the moments that made me proud, the moments where I felt aligned, confident, and honest. And I also noticed the moments that drained me, the times I compromised, the times I said yes when I wanted to say no, the times I followed a path that didn't belong to me. Through this reflection, I began to uncover my core values. Rediscovering values is not theoretical. It is practical. It is lived. It is shown through actions, not words. For me, one of my core values became integrity. Integrity in work. Integrity in relationships. Integrity in thought. Another became growth. To keep learning. To keep improving. To refuse stagnation. Another became courage. Courage to say no. Courage to walk away. Courage to live authentically. Once I clarified my values, my decisions became easier. I didn't have to overthink every choice. I didn't have to wrestle with doubt. I simply asked, does this align with my values? Yes? Then I act. No? Then I let it go. Here's the truth. You cannot find yourself by following the crowd. You cannot find yourself by doing what everyone else expects. You cannot find yourself by avoiding reflection or responsibility. Finding yourself requires courage. Courage to face the truth about who you are. Courage to let go of who you're pretending to be. Courage to live in alignment with your values. And yes, it is uncomfortable. It is challenging. It may cost you friendships, opportunities, or approval. But nothing is more rewarding than living a life aligned with who you are. Here's a simple process I used and still use today to rediscover my values. 1. Reflect on your proudest moments. Ask, when did I feel most alive, most myself, most fulfilled? What principles guided me in those moments? 2. Reflect on your lowest moments. Ask, when did I feel ashamed, drained, or disconnected? What standards did I compromise? 3. Look for patterns. Your values reveal themselves in repeated behavior. In what energizes you? In what frustrates you? 4. Choose 5 core values. Focus on a handful that guide your life. Too many values dilute focus. 5. Live by them daily. Make decisions, set goals, and take action that reflect these values. When you live aligned with your values, life becomes simpler. Decisions become easier. Peace replaces doubt. And you feel something remarkable. You feel authentic. You feel whole. You feel alive. Let me tell you this. The journey to rediscover your values will never be perfect. You will stumble. You will question yourself. You will doubt. But every reflection, every choice, every step back toward alignment brings you closer to your true self. And here's the most beautiful part. Once you know your values, you cannot go back. You cannot ignore the inner compass. You cannot live a life of compromise without noticing it, because your values become the foundation for everything. Your choices, your actions, your habits, your destiny. So start today. Pause, reflect, ask the hard questions, identify what matters most, and live by it. When you do, you will find yourself again, not a version that existed in the past, but a stronger, wiser, and fully authentic version of yourself. And that, my friend, is the true power of rediscovering your values. To find yourself again, sometimes you have to let go, not just the small things, not just the easy things, but the things that broke you, the habits that drained you, the people who discouraged you, the environments that made you feel small. I remember a time in my life, I was surrounded by people who didn't believe in my dreams. They laughed at my ideas. They questioned my choices. And slowly, without me realizing, I stopped believing in myself too. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was quiet. It was subtle. It was the accumulation of little compromises. And then one day, I paused. I asked myself, why do I feel like I'm shrinking? And the answer hit me. It wasn't life. It wasn't fate. It wasn't bad luck. It was the people, the habits, and the excuses I allowed into my life. That was the breaking point. And to rebuild, I had to remove what broke me. The first thing you must remove is toxic relationships. Some people are not bad people. Some people are simply not meant to walk your path. Some people reflect your past, not your future. You cannot grow while carrying their negativity. You cannot thrive while absorbing their doubts. You cannot find yourself while constantly seeking their approval. I had friends I loved, but their mindset kept me small. I had colleagues I respected, but their fears became my fears. I had family traditions I followed, but they no longer aligned with who I wanted to be. I had to step back. I had to create distance. I had to protect my energy. And once I did, I felt space to breathe, space to think, space to grow. The second thing to remove is harmful habits. Habits are invisible chains. They shape your days. They shape your mind. They shape your identity. Some habits are subtle. Wasting hours scrolling, overeating, avoiding challenges. Some habits are louder. Addictions, anger, excuses. I remember my own habits of procrastination. I would tell myself I'd start tomorrow. I would delay the work that mattered. I would justify small failures as harmless. Until I realized those small delays were building a life I didn't want. Every postponed action was another brick in a wall separating me from my true self. And so I started removing them. Not all at once. Not perfectly, but one by one. With intention. With discipline. The third thing to remove is old stories you tell yourself. The stories of fear. The stories of limitation. The stories of I can't. I used to tell myself, I'll never be successful. I'm not smart enough. I'll fail again. Those stories controlled me. They trapped me. They defined me. And the moment I chose to remove them, I felt freedom. I started telling new stories. I am capable. I can grow. I can rise above the past. Your words shape your world. Your thoughts shape your life. Remove the ones that break you. Replace them with ones that build you. Removing what broke you is not easy. It takes courage. It takes patience. It takes honesty. Some things are familiar. Some things are comfortable. Some things are painful to let go. But if you want to find yourself again, you must remove them. Because the space you create allows growth. The silence you create allows clarity. The freedom you create allows you to rediscover your values, your passions, and your purpose. I want you to remember this. Nothing grows in a toxic environment. Nothing thrives on excuses. Nothing prospers under old limitations. You must remove the weeds to allow the garden to flourish. I removed toxic friendships. I removed harmful habits. I removed old limiting beliefs. And slowly, I started to rebuild. Not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily. And with every removal, I felt lighter. I felt clearer. I felt more like me. So today, ask yourself, what or who is breaking me? What habits are holding me back? What stories no longer serve me? Identify them, acknowledge them, and then remove them. It's not easy. It may be painful, but nothing worth finding is ever easy. Because the person you're searching for, the person who's strong, authentic, and alive, cannot live in the same space as what broke you. Remove it. Clear the path and step forward. Your true self is waiting on the other side. Strength is not something you are born with. Strength is something you build, piece by piece, moment by moment. And the first step to becoming strong is knowing yourself, knowing your values, knowing your weaknesses, knowing what broke you in the past. Because strength is not just physical. It is emotional. It is mental. It is moral. It is the resilience to keep going when life pushes back. I remember a time in my own life I had been through failure, disappointment, and loss. Some days I felt small. Some days I felt weak. I wondered if I had the courage to keep moving. And then I realized strength is not about never falling. Strength is about rising every time you fall. Becoming the strongest version of yourself begins with discipline. Not the kind of discipline that punishes you. Not the kind of discipline that feels heavy or restrictive. The kind that shapes your character. The kind that molds your habits. The kind that turns small, consistent actions into remarkable results. I started small. I would wake early. I would read. I would exercise my body and mind. I would write down my goals. I would reflect on my day. It was simple. It was consistent. It was boring to some, but over time, it became powerful. Because strength is built quietly. It is built in the invisible moments. The moments nobody sees. The moments you do the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable. Next, strength comes from resilience. Life will break you if you let it. It will challenge you. It will test you. It will push you to the edge. And some people give up. Some people crumble. Some people surrender to fear. But the strongest version of yourself does not quit. You fall. You hurt. You fail. And then you rise. I remember a project I worked on that failed spectacularly. I felt embarrassed. I felt defeated. I felt like giving up. But instead of quitting, I asked myself a question. What can I learn from this? It was a simple question, but it changed everything. Because strength is not just about surviving the storm. It's about learning from the storm. It's about growing from it. It's about becoming wiser, sharper, and stronger than you were before. Becoming strong also requires clarity of purpose. Without purpose, strength is directionless. It is energy without focus. It is power without meaning. When I decided to find myself again, I also decided to live intentionally, to act with purpose, to pursue the life I truly wanted, not the life others expected of me. Purpose is a compass. It guides your choices. It fuels your perseverance. It gives your strength a direction. When your actions align with your purpose, you no longer waste energy on distractions. You no longer succumb to negativity. You no longer drift aimlessly through life. You move forward, confidently, deliberately, powerfully. Strength is also cultivated through habits. The habits you choose define the person you become. They either build you or break you. I have seen people with talent and intelligence fail, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked consistent habits. I chose habits that reinforced my values. Habits that strengthened my body, mind, and character. Habits that prepared me for challenges before they arrived. Reading every day. Exercising every day. Reflecting every day. Serving others every day. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary strength. And here's the key. Strength is built in the quiet moments, not in public recognition, not in applause, not in dramatic gestures. Strength is built in the invisible moments. The ones where you choose discipline over comfort, where you choose courage over fear, where you choose integrity over convenience. Another essential element of strength is emotional mastery. Life will test your patience. Life will challenge your emotions. Life will provoke anger, frustration, doubt, and fear. The strongest version of yourself does not suppress these emotions. It does not run from them. It acknowledges them. It understands them. And it chooses to act with wisdom, not impulse. I remember a conflict that could have destroyed a friendship. I felt angry. I felt hurt. I wanted to react immediately. Instead, I paused. I reflected. I responded with honesty and empathy. The result? A relationship that grew stronger. A trust that deepened. A sense of inner power that cannot be shaken by circumstances. Strength is measured not by how you react to the world, but by how you respond to yourself. Finally, strength requires vision. You must see the person you want to become, not as a distant dream, not as a vague idea, but as a real, achievable identity. I envisioned the strongest version of myself, disciplined, resilient, purposeful, wise, kind, aligned with my values. Every decision I made was measured against that vision. Every habit, every action, every word, every thought was aligned with that future self. And slowly, day by day, I became that person. Strength is not sudden. It is gradual. It is the result of deliberate choices, repeated consistently over time. So here's the truth. The strongest version of yourself is already inside you. It's waiting for your discipline, waiting for your resilience, waiting for your purpose, waiting for your courage. All you must do is claim it, build it, live it. Remove what broke you, align with your values, take intentional actions, master your emotions, and focus on your vision. Do these things, and you will find yourself stronger than ever before, stronger than yesterday, stronger than your doubts, stronger than anyone or anything trying to stop you. And when you reach that place, you will understand something profound. Strength is not about defeating others. Strength is about mastering yourself. Strength is about living fully aligned with your purpose. Strength is about becoming the person you were always meant to be. And that, my friend, is the ultimate power of becoming the strongest version of yourself. To live fully empowered, you must first remember this. Life is not something that happens to you. It is something you create. And the power to create starts within. It starts with finding yourself. It starts with understanding your values. It starts with removing what broke you. It starts with building your strength. All of that leads to this moment, living fully empowered. Empowerment begins with clarity. Once you know who you are, what you stand for, and what you will no longer tolerate, decisions become simple. Choices are guided by purpose. Actions are driven by vision. I remember a time after a long season of struggle. I had faced failure, doubt, and discouragement. I had removed what no longer served me. I had rebuilt habits and embraced discipline, and yet I felt uncertain about the next step. One morning, I sat quietly with a notebook. I asked myself, what kind of life do I want? What person do I want to be remembered as? The answer was clear. Not because the world told me so, not because others approved, but because I had found myself again. Clarity brings power. It is impossible to feel weak or lost when your vision is aligned with your values. Empowerment also comes from responsibility. Most people wait for life to hand them opportunities. They wait for luck. They wait for permission. Empowered people do not wait. They take ownership. They accept responsibility for their actions, their emotions, and their results. I once had a business that failed. It was a crushing blow. I could have blamed the economy. I could have blamed my partners. I could have blamed myself. Instead, I chose responsibility. I studied. I learned. I improved. And when the next opportunity arrived, I was ready. Responsibility is freedom. The moment you accept responsibility for your life, you reclaim control. You reclaim power. You reclaim yourself. Living fully empowered requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting in spite of fear. There were times I hesitated. Times I doubted. Times the fear of failure whispered louder than my dreams. But empowerment comes from choosing action, from taking the first step, from showing up even when it feels uncomfortable. I remember walking into a room full of people far more experienced than me. I felt small. I felt unworthy. I felt like I didn't belong. And yet, I spoke. I shared my ideas. I made my voice heard. That moment didn't just change the course of my work. It reminded me of my inner strength. It reminded me that empowerment comes when you refuse to shrink, even in the face of doubt. Empowerment is also about consistency. You cannot live fully empowered by chance. You cannot stumble upon it. You cannot borrow it from someone else. Empowerment is built every day, in your habits, in your discipline, in the small choices no one notices. I would wake early, read, write, and reflect. I would take consistent action toward my goals. I would treat people with respect, even when they didn't deserve it. I would choose integrity, even when no one was watching. Day by day, these actions compounded. Over time, I became someone who naturally felt empowered, someone whose life reflected clarity, responsibility, courage, and alignment. Living fully empowered also means embracing gratitude. Power without gratitude is arrogance. Strength without gratitude is emptiness. Achievement without gratitude is hollow. I remember a period when I achieved much but felt little satisfaction. I was chasing results. I was measuring myself against others. I was forgetting to appreciate the journey. When I shifted my focus to gratitude, everything changed. I began to see the beauty in small victories. I began to celebrate progress instead of perfection. I began to notice the people who supported me along the way. Gratitude amplifies empowerment. It turns success into fulfillment. It turns resilience into joy. It turns life itself into a gift. Finally, living fully empowered requires generosity. True empowerment is not selfish. It is not hoarded. It is shared. When you have clarity, responsibility, courage, consistency, and gratitude, you are positioned to uplift others, to inspire others, to lead others by example. I have seen this in my own life. The moments I shared my knowledge, supported someone in struggle, or simply offered encouragement, those moments brought deeper fulfillment than any personal achievement ever could. Empowerment multiplies when it touches others. The more you give, the stronger you become. So, what does life look like after rediscovery? It is a life of alignment, a life of action, a life of clarity, a life of courage, a life of gratitude, a life that empowers others. You wake up with purpose. You pursue goals with confidence. You respond to challenges with resilience. You make decisions with intention. You act according to your values, not someone else's expectations. And most importantly, you feel alive, truly alive.